A reading from Isaiah, chapter 11, verses 1 through 10. A shoot shall come out from the stump of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. The Spirit of the Lord shall rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. His delight shall be in the fear of the Lord. He shall not judge what his eyes see, or decide what his ears hear. But with righteousness he shall judge for the poor, and decide with equity for the oppressed of the earth. He shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he shall kill the wicked. Righteousness shall be the belt around his waist, and faithfulness the belt around his loins. The wolf shall live with the lamb, the leopard shall lie down with the kid, the calf and the lion will feed together, and a child shall lead them. The cow and the bear shall graze, their young shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. The nursing child shall play over the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put its hand on the adder's den. They will not hurt or destroy on all my holy mountain. For the earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. On that day the root of Jesse shall stand as a signal to the peoples. The nations shall inquire of him, and his dwellings shall be glorious. A reading from John, chapter 14, verse 27. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not let them be afraid.
At this very moment, an estimated 2 billion people are living in war zones or conflict-affected regions somewhere around the world. That's about 1/4 of Earth's population. 1,000 people die from war every day. 100 are civilians. 25 are children. The conflicts in Gaza, Ukraine, and the Congo account for most of those daily casualties, but there are at least 56 other active military conflicts around the world involving over 90 countries in deadly warfare every day. The global impact of war remains hidden to most of us in the developed world, and yet its dark spirit of unpeace is pervasive. It respects no boundaries. It lurks in the background of our modern consciousness. It affects directly or implicitly all of us. According to the Global Peace Index, 2025 marks the lowest level of global peacefulness since World War II. During Advent, we sing of peace on earth and goodwill toward all, but our daily news feeds reveal a strikingly different narrative about our daily life in the modern world. Peace on earth, peace in our relationships, in our country, in our community, our lives. We all know how elusive and fleeting it is. We may not be living in an actual war zone, but on any given day we can easily find ourselves standing at yet another proverbial line in the sand, digging in our heels, engaging in some battle from which, in the end, no one will walk away unscathed. On some days we are drawn into the war of words, grievance, misunderstanding, or blame. On other days, we are caught up in the ubiquitous war of politics, ideology, worldview, or belief systems. And even on some days, the battle turns inward and we are at war with ourselves, fighting some inner demon or regret or unhealed trauma. But on most days, especially in these anxious times we are all living through, we can find ourselves walking around bruised or wounded, struggling to manage the pang of unpeace in our lives, the tender ache of dis-ease, that exposed nerve that often triggers provocation and recrimination and starts yet another war. As the adage goes, it's a dog-eat-dog world, and I've got bigger teeth, which makes the season of Advent all the more urgent and indispensable to our lives. For 4 weeks here, we hear again about God's timeless vision for peace on earth. We're challenged to look honestly at the ways we contribute ourselves to the unpeace of the world. And we are reminded that the dis-ease and hostility we all live with, it's not so much a condition or even a symptom of our times, but rather an accommodation, a personal choice that we make every day. And that in every moment, God is calling us to choose to live differently. This vision for living differently in the world is captured powerfully in our passage from Isaiah 11. It begins with this scene of desolation and devastation in the aftermath of war. In the scene, we might imagine that the prophet Isaiah is walking through a war zone, the blood-stained battlefield on which the soldiers of his own country were overtaken by the powerful army of Assyria. His own countrymen and friends were killed and captured here, and the scene is rather apocalyptic. The temple lies in ruins. Not a single building is left standing. Every last tree has fallen. And all that remains is the wreckage and debris of war and the ugly charred stumps of Israel's once mighty oaks and cedars. There are no signs of life here. And as he walks across the deserted battlefield, his eyes are filled with tears. He remembers God's vision for Israel's peace, but now only sees the deadly consequences of war all around him. The situation is hopeless. There can be no future here. But then unexpectedly, his eyes fall upon a stump still somehow anchored to the scorched earth. And upon closer examination, he sees that a tiny green shoot, barely perceptible, has begun to emerge from the stump. Isaiah believes that this small, fragile shoot is a sign, a divine promise that something new is happening here. Even in this seemingly God-forsaken place, somehow life has emerged from death, hope from despair, beauty from the ashes. Not everything has been lost. There's a future here after all. So Isaiah unrolls a scroll of fresh parchment and writes this extraordinary prophecy that we read today about a future Messiah who, like a tender shoot emerging from an old lifeless stump, would soon rise up from the ancient family tree of Jesse, the father of King David, and come to restore the land and lead God's people in everlasting peace. A shoot, he says, shall come out of the stump of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. Isaiah's prophecies, his prophecy is that upon this ruler, God's Spirit will rest, making him wise and understanding, obedient to the ways of righteousness and justice, merciful to the poor and meek, and under his governance, this leader will reorder all of creation in such a way that nothing, no creature, would ever again hurt or destroy another living thing. All creation, from human life to the animal world, would be given another chance to live peacefully. How will we know when this prophecy is fulfilled? Isaiah says, you'll know it because the wolf shall live with the lamb. The leopard shall lie down with the goat, and the calf and the lion and the fatling together. The cow and the bear shall graze. The lion shall eat straw like the ox. This is how we'll know that the Messiah has come. For us moderns, it sounds for all the world like a naive fairy tale or some idealistic hippie pipe dream. Because when we look at our world, we can see the shadow between Isaiah's prophecy and our real lived experience. We know how the world works, that whenever you put wolves and lambs together, it will never ever go well for the lambs. As the comedian Woody Allen once said, the wolf may lie down with a lamb, but the lamb won't be getting much sleep. Are we any closer to witnessing the fulfillment of this prophecy, any closer than Isaiah was in his own time? Well, Isaiah recorded this oracle 700 years before the birth of Christ. Many of his contemporaries mocked his prophecy, but others believed it would someday be fulfilled. But after 700 years of waiting, who could possibly blame any of them for having lost hope by the time Jesus was born? Unlike the Jews, we Gentiles didn't have to wait 700 years for the Messiah to come. We didn't have to endure generations of exile in Babylon after the war, or the decades of reconstruction that followed, only then to suffer the eventual humiliation of living under Roman military occupation. For the Jews, Jesus came close to checking all the boxes of Isaiah's prophecy about the coming Messiah, except for that one super hard to overlook part about how the Messiah would be an actual ruler who would govern with real power and might, and with his mere breath could destroy the wicked and the enemy. Jesus did not entirely fit that messianic job description. But Christians for 2,000 years have come to believe that Isaiah's ancient prophecy was finally fulfilled in the person of Jesus, that God's Spirit rested uniquely upon him, that he embodied God's wisdom and understanding, exemplified God's righteousness and justice, had mercy and compassion for the poor and the meek, and taught the wolves and lambs of the world how to live together without anyone getting eaten. But when we look at the world, even we might question why, if Jesus really was the Messiah, why there's still so much unpeace everywhere, why we still live with so much dis-ease, and why the wolves keep getting fatter while the lambs keep disappearing. But this is why it's necessary to look more deeply into Isaiah's prophecy and to grapple with the radical nature of what God really has in mind when it comes to peace in our world. Most of us, when we define peace, conceive of peace in terms of the absence of conflict and difference. We assume that peace happens when we finally look past all of our differences and come to see that in the end, we are really just all the same. Our strategy for making peace with adversaries, or with those of competing worldviews or politics or belief systems, is to try to appeal to our oneness, our shared humanity, the inherent values we hold in common as humans. We say we're all humans here, so let's allow our commonalities to erase whatever differences may be between us. But so much of our peacemaking efforts appeal to our sameness, the homogeneity of the human experience. We seek harmony through uniformity, peace through the dismissal of difference and the avoidance of conflict. And yet nowhere in Isaiah's vision, this vision of the peaceable kingdom, nowhere does it suggest that peace between the wolf and the lamb is ever achieved by simply appealing to their shared animal nature or their life experience as mammals. For the wolf and the lamb, peace is not the absence of conflict. It is not the denial of difference. Their differences are real. The potential for conflict remains very real. There's nothing romantic or idealistic about their relationship. They are one, but they are not the same. And yet somehow the lamb sleeps confidently through the night in the security of trusting that she's safe, even in the presence of one who has the capacity to eat her for dinner. And the wolf somehow rests contentedly in the freedom of knowing that he doesn't have to defeat or devour anyone in order to prove his power or strength or to get what he needs to survive. Both the wolf and the lamb somehow have found a way to live together without fear and without domination. It's like any human relationship that endures the discomfort of difference or conflict over a period of time, between lovers or friends, between parents and children and siblings, between next-door neighbors or Democrats and Republicans. They are one, but they are not the same. At some point, they realize that for peace to happen, Each must make the radical choice to dwell in the discomfort, to trust the tension of difference, to hold the fragile imperfection of love lightly. True peace is never the absence of conflict or the dismissal of difference or discomfort. It is always the choice to carry each other in spite of it, for the sake of our mutual flourishing. The wolf and the lamb seem to know this. They know they have no other choice if they want to live and flourish in the kingdom. They have chosen to no longer define their lives according to the categories of prey and predator, the oppressed and the oppressor, the weak and the strong, the victim or the perpetrator, even good or evil. Their lives, they decide, will now depend on this fragile truce that could unravel at any moment, which makes living in relationship with each other both an incredible burden and an incredible privilege. Only in this tension of the real world does peace ever find real beauty. Beauty like a wolf living with a lamb, or a leopard lying down with a goat, or a child playing over the hole of the asp, or how does the writer of Psalm 23 put it? Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. And yet he sits at that table in peace, without fear. As the poet and philosopher Friedrich Hölderlin once said, where the danger is, also grows the saving power. Peace, saving peace, is never absent of the possibility of danger or disappointment. It's the risk that keeps peace from becoming an illusion. Like that small, imperceptible shoot that emerges from the stump, what makes it so beautiful and real is the possibility of its impermanence. In 1990, the Irish band U2 had reached the pinnacle of Billboard success. After its 2 albums that sold over 10 million copies each, the young band that began the 1980s in Dublin's obscurity had become one of the world's biggest acts. But within the band's ranks, the mood wasn't so joyous. U2 stumbled into the 1990s in this cloud of uncertainty. They knew they had to reinvent themselves, they just didn't know how. They were plagued by arguments of this lack of direction and cohesion, a lack of songs. And the future of U2 was in serious question. And that's when this song arrived, unannounced and unexpected, while recording in a Berlin studio in November of 1991. It started when the Edge began playing this simple random chord progression in the key of A minor. And the mood in the studio quickly changed. And within 15 minutes, they had written the entire chord structure, melody, and arrangement. Bono's lyrics to the song were written nearly as fast. And to flesh out the verses, he imagined a scene about a gay son coming out to his religious father, and another scene about 2 lovers whose relationship is collapsing. And this song drops the listener into the middle of a long, intense argument, this conflict over difference. The conversation feels strained and emotionally fraught. The characters are tired of dancing around the issue. They've chosen to air their grievances. The song, titled One, begins with the line, "Is it getting better, or do you feel the same? Will it make it easier on you now? You got someone to blame." Conflict sits at the center of that song. These 2 people have been hurt by each other, but they're tired of the wounding. They long for peace, even in their discomfort. The song builds to this crescendo. You say love is a temple, love the higher law, a reminder of the burden and privilege of living in relationship. And then it leads to this bittersweet truce, without ever resolving that discomfort within which both characters dwell. One life, but we're not the same. We get to carry each other. We're one, but we're not the same. And there's something absolutely unromantic and yet wonderfully beautiful about that. We're one, but we're not the same. We don't have to be. We just get to carry each other. Not we just got to carry each other, but we get to. We get to carry each other through this discomfort and the burden and privilege, the obligation and the gift of living together, working together. Despite our differences, is the work we do to build this fragile but necessary peace. One love, one life. It's one need in the night, he sings. But it leaves you, baby, if you don't care for it. It leaves us if we don't nurture it. That's how fragile and fleeting this peace is. Every day, depending on the day, we are either a wolf or a lamb. But the question is always the same. Will we choose peace even as we live with difference? And so Jesus says, my peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not let them be afraid. Our takeaways for today: peace is a choice made in the presence of real difference. God's peace often arrives in fragile, unexpected places. Peacemakers bear the burden and privilege of carrying each other through difference and discomfort.